Do you have big, ambitious, long-term goals? Or are you planning to have them? I think that's great, and indeed the most common advice that you will get is to focus on the long term, to clarify your grand vision, and to be very careful not to sacrifice the future for the present. This is all very common advice, and there's a reason why it's so common. It's because it's very useful, and many people need reminding from time to time. However, something that you hear less often is don't sacrifice the present for the future. And the reason why you hear it less often is because it's easy for people to assume the paternalistic role where they enlighten you about your goals and they give you support and they tell you the right thing to do. And that's sometimes good, it's sometimes overstepping some boundaries. But it's much more difficult for people to be gentle, to have empathy, to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're enjoying it. Here's the reality. You might be hit by a bus today. Something might happen to you or to the world that will make achieving your goals impossible. Is it likely? No, but is it possible? Yes. And if you've sacrificed everything for one grand goal, but you can never accomplish it, what a pity it would be. What a shame it would be to have lost the future and never have gained the present. Hello and welcome to Valiant Growth, the podcast that empowers you to earn self-esteem, build amazing relationships, and achieve freedom through radical personal development. Today I will be talking about gentleness in achieving your goals, and also about making your growth journey sustainable through making it enjoyable. In short, enjoying the journey. The inspiration for this episode comes out of my very own situation. As you might have noticed, I haven't lived up to my previous commitment of making 5 episodes a week. In fact, I'm going to announce today that I'm changing that commitment to making 2 episodes a week, or at least that will be the minimum, one on Monday and one on Friday, with more depending on how things work out that week. And the reason why I made this change, and the reason why I'm talking about enjoying the journey, is that I got to a point where I was making the 5 or 4 episodes a week, but I was extremely tired. I was worn out. My creativity was fading. And I talked to a friend, and he was in a very similar situation. And this is a very good friend, and we put our heads together, and we realized that this is not sustainable. I was working 60 plus hours a week, having a job and the podcast to do. And all of it because I've set this goal of making 5 episodes a week. And I felt frustrated. I felt disappointed. I felt tired. Many of the other things that I planned to do with the podcast weren't done because simply all of my time was taken up with production. And many cool personal development things and the implementation of systems also wasn't being done for the same reason. And we realized that this is not sustainable and this is just not the right way to go. And we said, yeah, what if a bus hits me tomorrow? I'll be a tired and worn out corpse. I don't want to do that. I want to look extremely happy on my deathbed should that ever happen. Or death pavement in this situation. So I decided to scale down, and in the last 2 weeks I have been taking it much more easy, and now I come to you recharged with a lot of fresh ideas and with that pressure taken off my mind, and really again enjoying the experience of podcasting. So I said, I have to talk about this on the show. I have to discuss this because I know that so many people are being worn out by very difficult goals, and simply scaling it down a little bit not only would mean that they would have better experience, they would just enjoy life more overall, but it might very well be that setting more modest or perhaps the better way of saying it is more self-respectful goals will probably lead to either reaching them sooner than expected, or actually reaching them on time as opposed to having to reset them over and over again, or reaching them at a higher level of quality, having an output or an expected result that's better, or both. So this is a great idea and a great approach because it combines the psychological and the productivity aspects. I think it's a win-win overall. So let's take a look at it. So the first thing that setting respectful and enjoyable goals brings to you, in my opinion, is an anti-procrastination effect. One of the most popular episodes of Valiant Growth is episode 4 about procrastination. You can find it at valiantgrowth.com/e4, also in the description. It's one of the, well, not only one of the most popular, but also one of the best received episodes, and I get a lot of feedback that this is the episode that set the show apart. Well, I talk about this in that episode, but fundamentally, procrastination can be a revolt of parts of yourself against a schedule or a load or a goal that's either misaligned, that is, it doesn't reflect their goals, their values, it doesn't reflect the aims of certain parts of you and they feel threatened by it, or it can be a reaction that this is too much. And for this reason, I've actually come to appreciate, grudgingly, it wasn't easy, but I've learned to appreciate procrastination signals when they come, when I feel like I don't really want to do this, because I realize that often it is a powerful signal, a wake-up call that what I'm doing is not right, or it's too much, or I'm going down the wrong path, I'm not being self-respectful, I'm not integrating the desires of my competing parts, or I'm doing something that would have gotten me in trouble in my childhood. So I've come to appreciate it, but of course it's a hassle and it's a difficulty. And I think by being more self-respectful, these signals don't have to come, and therefore you will experience less occasions when you're unable to muster the energy and the willpower to go into something. I've in fact experienced this many times, that right before a breakdown I would talk to people about how much work I'm doing, and the more I talked about it, the less I did. And this was in some way my parts, my body's, my spirit's way of communicating to me, because there was no other way to reach me because I wasn't focusing inwards. So it was coming out in conversations, and this was a pattern that I noticed. Maybe it's something that you noticed in yourself or in people around you, and it's simply a signal. So accepting these signals and living with them and working with them, setting milder goals can lead to a drop in procrastination. Another obvious advantage that I've already mentioned is that it leads to more creativity. The fact is that to be creative, you need a rested mind and you need time. And I have experienced this myself, but I've also seen it. Overscheduled people have a very hard time of coming up with new great ideas that could actually reduce their schedule and save them time and make things really cool. I talk about habits in this show, but if you've built daily habits that basically encompass all of your days, like all the time in your day, which I've done, when will you come up with all the ideas that are really going to move you forward? Because I'm sure you've experienced this, that so often it is not the work but that you need, or perhaps a better way of putting it is that it's not the work on things you've already thought about, but the work of thinking about new things in new ways that really makes the difference. Some of the coolest things in my life have absolutely emerged from hobby projects, and I had the time, and that was important. So enjoying the journey will likely give you more creativity and might actually get you there faster and better and more enjoyably. I believe that creativity and exercising it and experiencing it is one of the best places to be. It's the rich wine of life in a way. Another great advantage is making your goals more sustainable, making your activities in pursuit of your goals more sustainable. You're not going to burn out so fast or at all. You can be very flexible that even if something happens in a certain period, if you have less all-encompassing goals, you can absorb the shock. You can shuffle your calendar around and still get it done. It leads to great flexibility. And because of that, you can make commitments to yourself and others that are much more secure, that are much more likely to be fulfilled. And that is such an important thing. I believe that is a key element of self-esteem, of self-respect. The sixth pillar of self-esteem, according to Nathaniel Branden, is personal integrity. And nothing damages personal integrity more than unkept promises, be it to others or to yourself. You can read more about this at valiantgrowth.com/6pillars. But setting goals and making commitments that you know you can keep, that you know that you don't have to perform 100% all the time to keep, will go a very long way towards building your self-esteem. Paradoxically, perhaps, because it's also important to challenge yourself, but it is in the balance of these two that great performance and great self-esteem lies. And also, just commitments to others in general are easier to keep when your commitments to yourself are already not occupying 100% of your time or 99% of your time. Often the most agonizing choices are when you get delayed on your own project, but you've also promised something to someone else, and there's simply no time to fit them all in. Well, through this you can avoid some of that, and that will have very beneficial effects. Another advantage is that you'll probably be healthier. I think it reduces stress levels. And also you can be more balanced in a big picture way. You can be more balanced in the pursuits of your life, in the areas that you focus on. I talk about so many topics because so many topics are important in being happy and successful. I talk about psychology, personal finances, productivity, relationship, etc. And you have to focus to some extent on all of them, because a single point of failure can really damage the whole structure, if not bring it down entirely. And if you have more sustainable goals, you will also be able to A, run more parallel goals, improve in various fields, and B, discover new topics, new areas, new places. A little investment can go a long way. Often investing in something new, investing in learning a new skill and discovering something new can have much larger early returns than hammering out the last detail, something that you already know very well. As a side note here, those of you who have read Atlas Shrugged from Ayn Rand, which I'll probably review in the future as I'm in a process of rereading it, will notice that many of the heroes, and you could argue Ayn Rand herself, are unbelievably good in their areas, but most of their suffering and most of the problems that they encounter come from other areas where they're not developed. For instance, Dagny Taggart and Hank Rearden suffer unduly for the fact that they're not listening to their emotions and that they're not interested in philosophy, specifically morality, and it takes them a lot of suffering to finally get to this point, and it's partially because they've invested all of their time in their businesses. And this might have not been the message of the book, but reading it with psychology in mind will really reveal it. And this is a good place to talk about obstacles too. One of the main ones being the entrepreneurial hero worship, best exemplified in Ayn Rand's works, but also prominent in our Western culture, is the idea that being a hero is all about extreme sacrifice. You have scenes in Ayn Rand's book where the entrepreneurs, they're being portrayed, haven't slept in days and just fall asleep on their desks, but wake up and keep going, and they're just completely smashed, but they don't allow themselves to feel. And this is seen as a virtue. Ignoring the signals of your body, ignoring the signals of your mind that you need rest, you need to focus on something else, is made into something heroic in our culture. And getting rid of that mindset will help you achieve this better. But perhaps the even bigger and more essential obstacle is not having the ability to trust yourself to relax. It's this idea that if you stop, you will not be able to regain the speed. It's the fear that productivity comes as bursts of energy and they must be used no matter what, because any interruption will destroy it. And it is true in one sense. It is true perhaps moment to moment, but it is not true in a big picture looking at day to day. But it's a difficult one to accept. It's something that I myself struggle with. It's not an easy thing, and I think the roots of solving this obstacle, of overcoming it, is in building self-esteem, as so often, is in building a reputation with yourself that you have the capacity to pick things up. You have the capacity to be able to both relax and also then to be able to switch into a productive mode again. And the only way that I can see to building this reputation is actually doing it step by step. The more times you break this spell, the more you will know that you are able to do it. And this can go both ways. It can be, for some people, switching back to work after having relaxed, but definitely for other people the challenge might be learning to actually take a break and to relax. But I think even having the idea in your mind will lead to a rapid shift. The idea that you must build self-trust, that you can trust yourself, that you are not a horse that needs to be whipped and controlled by yourself, lest a rebellion follow, that you can build a relationship with parts of yourself, with voices in you, with tendencies in you, that is not destructive, that is not a conflict, but that is in harmony. That you can sit down with yourself and take into account all your needs, all your desires, and work out a solution that works for everyone. And that you don't have to be a dictator and be this crazy sports movie coach pushing yourself to the limit and pushing yourself down and then switching into a cycle of rebellion and just not doing anything and then fighting back again. And it's so tiring and it's so unnecessary and it's so disrespectful of yourself. And I've done it, and my good friends have done it, and this is not surprising at all if you look into the fact that this is how parenting is done. This is how schools run. Take away the idea that children must be forced to do X thing in X place with X teacher for X minutes. Take away that idea and school as we know it doesn't exist anymore. It's not surprising. It's not surprising that we develop these tendencies. It's not surprising that we pick these up. How many parents are respectful of the various desires of their children and let them do what they want with gentle guidance instead of either being a dictator or being completely neglectful. It's very rare. And it then gets reflected into popular culture, into the movies, into the books, into the ideas in psychology of how humans work, into the idea of bringing conditioning into how you perform, that you must trick and hack yourself and life hack yourself into productivity and fool your brain and train your brain and reward yourself and always play the same music when you work and things like that. Things that have limited usefulness, but that are very disrespectful to you because they come from an idea that you must dominate your own quote-unquote lazy parts or weak parts. And once you get the idea that that is not the only way to go forward, and combine it with practicing good habits and building a reputation with yourself that, yeah, I can take a break and I can also get back to work, and it's not this impossible thing. The combination of these will lead to not only great results, but really enjoying the journey. And if you look around you, you can notice this duality of extreme push and then mindless relaxation. And for some people, it's achieving incredible things with crazy deadlines and pushing themselves to the limit, and it's really visible. But with other people, it can simply be fighting the revulsion of what they're doing, fighting the fact that they don't like their job, they don't like the end product, they have no connection to it, they don't like their co-workers, but they have to be there, and that takes all their energy. And then on the flip side, when it comes to relaxation, it's this self-destructive, over-the-top, break my consciousness kind of approach that some people take with alcohol, with drugs, with sex, with shopping, with all the addictions. You can see this all around you in society. It's always these stories that are just so difficult to understand. When you have these heroes, these people who do unbelievable things, who achieve unbelievable goals, who are paragons of reason and virtue, and then inexplicably they slip up catastrophically, be it in addictions, be it in relationships, and it's just unexplainable, and you can't square it in your mind. Like, what was this guy doing? What was this woman doing? How is it possible that someone who could achieve such great things would slip up so much? Well, I think a lot of that can be chalked up to mindless relaxation, to these extreme dualities that you can see. And it is this very abrasive and very destructive duality that can be reduced and ultimately eliminated by simply being more self-respectful. And through self-respect lies the way. It's hearing the idea, it's thinking about it, it's embracing it, it's building the reputation that will lead you to have the ability to enjoy the journey. It's also looking into your history. How was performance looked upon in my family when I was a child? How was taking a break looked upon? How were people's lot in life looked upon? Was it important to achieve everything at an early age? Was it important to be ahead of your peers in the glories that the world can bring? Was performing in this race the one way to gain some attention, some love, some respect? Or was achievement looked upon as something futile, something that cannot be achieved, something that cannot be reached, something that only fools embark in? All of these messages will seep into your mind and will gain a hold there and will influence you unconsciously. And you have to really look into them, and you have to really see how they influence you today. And the best gateway is often your emotions. So it often begins with opening up to your emotions. You will do certain things in pursuit of your goals, and you will feel certain emotions when you do those things. And sometimes those emotions will be nonsensical or will be destructive, or at least that's how they will seem. But those are exactly the moments to be mindful, to try to embrace them, try to discover them, try to understand them, and try to discover their roots. This is a very important step on this way. And I don't know how prevalent this is, but this was something that was very important in my own childhood, so I'll throw it out there. I think it's very important to question the idea of life as a race. The idea that you must look to people of the same age as you and where they are and what they achieved and measure yourself up against them and work on beating them and work on getting more and derive a lot of satisfaction from hitting those check marks earlier in life. I think that is a very disrespectful idea. It leads to conformity, it leads to burnout, and it is something that must be looked upon skeptically. A great example that I've heard very recently listening to a podcast about the history of Rome is how generals and emperors would go to the tomb of Alexander. And the experience that they would come away with is that, well, I can never achieve what this guy has achieved. I'm already older than he was when he died, and by this time he conquered half the world, and where am I? And I can never be this great in history, and I can never achieve these things as fast as he did. And this is a great example, and question this. Question the idea that you have to be Alexander or whomever, that you have to get there as fast as Mozart did or all the other prodigies, that you are somehow behind the world if your income is below average, the average for your age range, or you don't have the house or the car that the people of your age do. Here's the reality. People have very different goals. People have very different priorities. People have varying degrees of being connected to what is important to them, or even defining what is important to them. A lot of the fast achievers are people who don't question what is given to them. It is by your own standards and your own standards alone that self-esteem is built and that you should judge yourself. Other people will help you shape that standard, yes. Other people will give you ideas, yes. Other people will point out inconsistencies, yes. But ultimately, it is your standard. And there's nothing more dangerous or foolish than judging yourself by common norms, just because they're common. Many things are good. Many things that people value are indeed valuable, but without knowing the reason why, excesses can be reached and misallocation of energy can be reached. These are the things that lead to the midlife crisis. So yeah, I encourage you to question this idea, and this will probably get you on the way to enjoying the journey. Something that I'm experimenting with is actually consciously implementing a free time quality plan or a rich experience plan. Sometimes to relax is just that, but sometimes some thought must be put into it, and really by putting 10% of the effort that you put into your work on making your free time or the time when you don't work enjoyable will lead to great results and might lead to the experiences that you will remember, the experiences that will go forward with you. But it does require a certain amount of thinking, and it does require setting aside free time. Something else that can really help you is improving your productivity, simply because you will be able to do the same amount of work with, well, less time and less effort. I really recommend checking out Getting Things Done. It's useful for actually getting things done, but it's also a tool to free your mind, and that is a very explicit purpose. It is intended to free you of always having to think about what do I do next, what do I still have to do, what are the commitments that I've already made, by storing these things in a system. And you can find the book at valiantgrowth.com/GTD, as in Getting Things Done. And I will also very likely cover it in the future in this podcast, because I'm working on implementing it myself. And the final thing that will help you on enjoying the journey, I believe, is frugality. by removing the need to fund a high consumption lifestyle, you can liberate the free time, not only to work on your own projects, but also to simply enjoy the journey. And you can go to the website valiantgrowth.com and check out the episodes that I've done on frugality and learning both the tips and the tricks, but even more importantly, the frameworks that will get you there. And I'm currently living very well on half a minimum wage here in the United Kingdom, so there are lots of possibilities, and frugality can be a powerful tool. So overall, I think implementing many of the things that we talk about here in Valiant Growth will help you enjoy the journey. And I firmly believe that once you have the idea and once you have this focus in your mind, it will not take you very long. It might be difficult, but it will not take you very long to start really enjoying the present without sacrificing the future. Thank you for listening to Valiant Growth, and I dare you to flourish today. If you're at all familiar with Valiant Growth, you will know that this is news time. First of all, very importantly and very excitingly, you can now download the Valiant Growth app, the best way of listening to Valiant Growth on smartphone, both on Android and in iTunes. Simply search Valiant Growth in your App Store/Play Store and enjoy. Another great piece of news is that I feel that the community has now reached a certain critical mass, a certain size where it makes sense to actually have a Facebook group and to really start the discussion. I've been encouraging you to like the Facebook page, but the truth is it's not the best place for really having conversations, and it is my goal to build a community because growth takes inspiration. So if you can inspire others and can be inspired yourself, if you can pick up all the great resources, all the great information, even meet people in your area, why not do it? So, whereas before if I set up a group, probably would have been just me talking, now we do have enough listeners where we can actually get this going. So visit valiantgrowth.com/community to join the Valiant community on Facebook. I'd be very happy to have you there, and once you're approved, please introduce yourself and feel free to share resources, to share questions, to share insights. You're absolutely welcome to share other great podcast episodes that you've enjoyed. If they're relevant to personal growth, I myself listen to a number of them, and they're all great, and I'd love to discover more, so go ahead and do it. There's absolutely no problem with me, and also you can discuss my episodes, what you think, what your feedback is, what ideas this started in your mind, what results you have achieved thanks to listening to Valiant Growth, and where you'd like it to go in the future. You can talk about all of those in the Valiant Growth community at valiantgrowth.com/community or by simply searching Facebook for Valiant Community. I hope to see you there. And finally, I will be changing release schedules, as I've said. I am now officially dropping my goal of having 5 podcast episodes per week, Monday to Friday, to be consistent with the things that I say in this episode. And now I aim to bring you 2 podcasts per week, one on Monday and one on Friday, with the possibility of more coming out if I have the time and the inspiration. This episode will be coming out on a Wednesday, but you can expect another one Friday as well. I know how important consistency is in producing a podcast, and I think this is a schedule that I can stick to. It is a promise that I can make to you. And as I said, there might be more content, so download the app and check it every now and then. And the final tip for you, if you listen to several podcasts regularly, and Valiant Growth is one of them, an amazing app that I've recently discovered is an app called Player.fm. I have it on Android, but I'm guessing it's also available on iTunes. And it does a great job and has a lot of great features. some things that my app has as well, but other things that my app does not have, such as faster playback speed, noise reduction, though you hopefully don't have to use it on this podcast. And overall, it is a great way of combining podcasts and just having them in one place and just checking it every day and seeing what is new. It does a great job at that. It does a great job at downloading it through Wi-Fi, so you can always know that I won't miss an episode. So this is if you listen to a number of podcasts actively. Go and check out player.fm.